Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So glad you are here today, guys. You guys know that I love certain things. I love good lawyering. I love that. I love good reporting. And I have found an article, thanks actually to my sister. She sent it to me, that is such good reporting on pastor. Now, everybody just realized that when I say pastor, I'm doing air quotes, okay? Pastor J.P. Miller down there in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Obviously, it pains me to say this, the widow, because they were still married, of Micah Miller, though estranged. Let's not even give him that honor, okay? He was not her widower, not at all. But the husband of Micah Miller, who passed away in April. The official story is that she did it to herself. But you guys know that I deeply believe that if she did it, it was J.P. Miller who drove her to it. And if some of the things that have been reported by Micah's family are true, then I'm kind of teetering over to the side of, no, she probably didn't do it. I need to check a couple things here real quick. It looks like my system is kind of weirdo. No, we're good. Okay, we're good. Before I really dig into this, guys, I wanted to tell you that unceremoniously, we have passed 75,000 subscribers here on YouTube, which is just crazy shocking to me. And I know that it was unceremonious, but I am so grateful to all of you who come and join me every time or some of the time or whenever I go live here on YouTube. I'm so thankful. Thank you so much for the support that you give me all the time. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. All right. We are going to go over to a story that was written by the Post and Courier down there in South Carolina. Let's bring you over here. Wrong one. Bring you over here. Okay. This story is titled The Double Life of Pastor J.P. Miller, How Micah Miller's Death Exposed the Sins of Her Husband. And I thought it was just a bombshell when we got Micah's list last week. But there is stuff in here that is it's just remarkably crazy. I just can't even. One of the things that came to light, one of the parts of this expose is the church bought an airplane, and something like 12 cars were owned by this church. This was not a church. This was a business. This was a worship business. And it's falling apart. It's falling apart. And for the sake of everybody involved, I hope that it completely crumbles all the way down. But let's go ahead and get into this awesome expose by Brandon Lockett from the Post and Courier. All right. Myrtle Beach. From the pulpit of his church, John Paul Miller had a warning for his congregation. Reading through his wife's text messages, which we knew about, he counted 18 people who had contacted her in the last 2 years, promising they'd keep her secrets if she ever needed someone to talk with about him. On that day in March, Miller was in the midst of a messy divorce initiated by his 30-year-old wife, Micah. Her litany of accusations against him included engaging in adultery, stalking her with tracking devices, and spreading lies about her in the church. By the way, as we have learned from the press conference and learning from the whole document surrounding Micah's list, man, she was just trapped in this cycle that she just couldn't get out. And so many people, I would say mostly women, but men too, are in this trap that they can't get out of. And yeah, Pastor Miller. Pastor, remember, every time I say pastor, guys, I am using air quotes. All right. I think that it's important to say the word, not because I believe that he is a man of God who has a flock that is following him. It's because it's so cognitively dissonant, right? That it's important that we all have our cockles up, have our little antenna up, so that we aren't trapped in these kinds of things too. Okay? All right. All right. Miller told those in attendance at his Solid Rock and Market Common Church that when Christian women want to talk about others who've hurt them, they should talk to Jesus. Quote, if somebody calls you, I'm sorry, quote, if somebody calls to you and say bad things about somebody else, Miller said, that's a demon talking to you. Of course, we know that he was gaslighting his congregation, right? It's so bad, so bad. Micah Miller would call police 3 times over the next 4 days to talk about her husband, known by most as JP. She said he had slashed her tires, tracked her car, and shown up at a gas station to harass her, according to police reports. We've looked at those reports here on the channel. And by the way, guys, I want to let you know, I didn't bring it up so it's not prepared to show you, but I have requested a whole bunch of stuff from Horry County, from Robeson County, from as many places where I think that there are issues, there are things that we can look at in this case. One of the things that I've requested is any audio, video, body-worn cameras, dash cameras, those kinds of things from the police that we can get our hands on. And I heard back from the custodian of records that they are sharing the cost amongst all of us who have requested those things. So I have sent in my portion of that cost. We will have more stuff to show here on the channel. Okay. All right. She told an officer she feared for her life. 6 weeks later, Micah Miller was found dead in a state park in North Carolina. Authorities have ruled her death as she did it to herself. But Micah's family and friends have continued to push for a deeper accounting of JP's alleged behavior during the marriage and the toll they said it took on his young wife. JP Miller, his attorney, and several people close to him either declined to comment for this story or didn't return messages. This is good reporting, guys. This is very good reporting. JP, 45, would not speak with a reporter who visited his home on May 7th, and he did not come to the door during a return visit on June 3rd. So they tried to give him ample opportunity to participate in this story. Maybe the first wise thing that JP Miller has done is not talked to reporters. Anyway, but JP, has steadfastly maintained in statements that he didn't abuse Micah and that he is simply a grieving husband struggling to come to grips with his wife's untimely death. Yeah, grieving husband. Where was the... Oh, yeah, let's watch this real quick.
She was probably the greatest wife anyone could ask for. She was incredibly affirming. We spent every night together for hours just talking and talking and talking. She had struggled with us.
Oh my goodness, just that performance kills me. The choking up, going really, really high, but not a tear shed, and then able to get back on message. He's such a performer. Okay. Still, the scrutiny of JP's life has uncovered troubling details about his church and the men who followed his disgraced father into the ministry. And we're going to get into Pastor Wayne Miller here in a second too. Okay? A man who, just like his father, blamed the problems in his marriage on his wife while reportedly hiding his own demons. There's a picture of Micah from her Ring camera. Okay, the Post and Courier spoke with a dozen people connected to the Miller family, the church, and the bar that JP co-owned until recently. Reporters, when people found out that he was a co-owner of a bar, his parishioners, I'm sure that they had some feelings about that. Okay, reporters also reviewed sermons, text messages, property records, police reports, and court filings. Together, they illuminate the secret life of a religious leader accused in court records of doing this to these girls and abusive behavior toward women, including both of the women he married. They paint a portrait of a pastor who didn't practice what he preached. And I'm going to give you a little foreshadowing on this, guys. This article actually perfectly verbalizes what I have struggled to say when it comes to why JP Miller even had all these followers. It's really terrific writing, really good reporting. Let's get into it. Investigators cleared JP Miller of direct involvement in Micah's death. He was in Charleston at the time with a woman he's reportedly dating. He had been served with divorce papers from Micah days before she died. The day after Micah's body was found, JP informed his congregation of her passing at the end of a Sunday morning sermon. He told them that she did it to herself, I'm going to say, after a long struggle with mental illness. We have all seen that, right? We have seen those clips. Let's see if... How long is this video? Hang on just a second.
We're not going to do an altar call today. Instead,
It's a minute long. Let's just watch it.
Instead, I'm going to have you stand up, and I'm going to make an announcement. And after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can, so y'all can stand to your feet. Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next, little bit, because I don't want to have, I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks, I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away, and it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina, and we're gonna have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can. Yeah,
look at the woman on the stage off to the left.
Adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come. But just keep our family in your prayers.
Okay,
and I'm going to let
enough. That's enough. Okay. So yeah, we've all watched that video. It's absolutely shocking that he did it that way. But we're going to learn a little bit more about what happened there. Okay. The way he told his church, asking people to leave without discussing her death and urging them to keep attending and giving, that's the main thing, right? While he went on leave, fueled widespread suspicion about his behavior. Yeah, because his behavior is sus. Miller's first wife, Allison Williams, divorced him after discovering he was having an affair with Micah, a church member who babysat for the family. Micah was married to JP's best friend at the time, divorce records indicate. JP officiated their wedding. Most of us, if you look around on the internet, we've seen even those photos, right? Where he's standing like at the, whatever they would call that, the dais or the rostrum, whatever. And there his best friend is marrying Micah Miller. He was the one. If this weren't real, if I didn't know this were real, I would think that somebody made this up. This came from a book, right? Okay, Micah later told police that JP had, quote, groomed her while she worked for him at Solid Rock, police reports show. She had attended the church since she was 15, according to court records. In court papers filed last week seeking full custody of their 2 teenage children, Williams included emails, text messages, and a voicemail showing Micah had reached out to her for help getting away from JP. And I think I shared that voicemail with you guys a little earlier. Do I have that handy? Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Micah's voicemail to Allie. Here we go.
Hey, Allie, it's Micah. This is my new number. Please don't give it to anybody, but I just wanted to see who your counselor was to help you, walk through forgiveness and stuff and keep your heart right through all the mess, because I don't want to lose myself in this, and I don't want to pursue anything out of anger or vengeance or anything like that. I just want to be free and have peace and keep my soul right. So if you just text me a name, even of a good counselor, I greatly appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Now, if Micah had wanted to get back at him in anger and vengeance, knowing now what we saw on Micah's list just a few days ago, I wouldn't blame her at all. But she is seeking to be a good woman following the Christian faith that she loved, right? Okay. Micah had also asked to talk to her about the children's safety. Texts sent from one child's phone to Micah were allegedly written by JP begging Micah to come home, the records show. And I can just imagine JP being like, oh man, I've gone too far. She needs to come home. We can't do this. People will find out, right? Just the panic. And now he's impersonating his children. A judge on May 29th granted Williams' emergency request to deny JP visitation with his children, citing the imminent risk and threat of harm for the children. The couple had 2 children during the marriage who are now adults. So we knew that. They had 4 children. They now have 2 teenagers and 2 adults, right? Williams said in an affidavit that we all read, a formal statement given under oath, that JP told her he had been inappropriate. I'm going to skip that word, but you guys see it. Inappropriate with underage girls in the church and had hired prostitutes during their marriage, which ended in October 2015. She stated in the same document that he blamed his immoral behavior based on the SA he experienced for years by his father, Pastor Wayne Miller. Okay. Williams also said in her sworn statement that she tried to take the SA abuse accusations to police, but the girls involved were too afraid to speak out. Without those statements, police told her no one would believe her story because JP, this guy, was seen as a respected pastor and they were going through a divorce, she said in a statement, which boggles the mind in that JP already had a history. At this point, he had a criminal history. And he was the son of a man with a criminal history. How he would be seen as a respected pastor is just beyond me. Sometimes, I know that being a police officer is really difficult and making those judgment calls. Oh my goodness, don't even get me started on Gabby Petito, right? That was a judgment call coming from probably a combination of a place of wanting to be caring for Gabby and also not wanting to go through the process of all the paperwork and all that stuff, right? I know that they're not perfect and I know that it's hard, but my goodness. Oh, okay. Williams did not respond to interview requests from the Post and Courier. Let me check something here real quick, guys. Okay. Church leaders tried to make JP step down and seek counseling, Williams said in her statement, but he told them he had 100% decision-making authority at Solid Rock. Yeah, he had set himself up with all the power at Solid Rock during the time of his divorce from Allison Williams. And even later, we'll find out here in just a bit, he may not have had 100% power, but he had 100% control. Okay. As the congregation dwindled in the wake of the scandal, JP began to recruit new members, she stated. His confessions of a checkered past, this is the part, guys. His confessions of a checkered past forged a bond with his evangelical congregation when his sermons cast him as a sinner who found salvation, said former church member Eric Weber, or Weber. However, I'm going to say Weber because I had a friend named Tony Weber who spelled it that way. It could be some other pronunciation, I guess. But listen, this is the brand of Christianity that many people subscribe to. Many good people subscribe to this, that, hey, we're all sinners, and when somebody has fallen deeply and confesses it, that seems to give them more credibility, right? And to me, I mean, while the followers, I applaud them for their forgiveness and for their ability to, I guess, yeah, just forgive. Also, red flags, people, don't be following somebody like that. Maybe be befriending somebody like that, fellowshipping somebody like that, but don't be following somebody like that. Okay? All right. Weber, who joined the church in 2021, said Miller seemed a, quote, humble, repentant person who publicly took responsibility for his divorce for a while. I should actually go back. Guys, you guys know that I'm a practicing faithful Christian. And I really don't like to bring religion and so forth and scripture into my live streams. But of course, you know what? Never mind. Just, yeah, make good judgments, people, and do your best. Okay. All right. JP would say, quote, I'm a sinner like you, so it was fairly easy to forgive him as a changed man. Okay, I'm going to say what I was going to say. Like, wait until you can see the fruits of their change. Okay? All right. We all wanted the power to be redeemed from our sinful natures. Yeah, so he took advantage of that forgiving nature that is like a bedrock principle of Christianity. He took advantage of it. And through the power of his performance and his charisma, got like 700 people to follow him. Okay. But as Miller's marriage to Micah also crumbled, Weber saw a drastic change. Quote, JP started acting more and more, Weber paused for the precise word, evil. His sermons became very myopic and narcissistic, he said. Disillusioned, Weber left the church last year. Micah Miller's accusations against JP sound similar to the patterns often seen in high-risk, we'll call it DV cases, said Sarah Barber, executive director of the South Carolina Coalition Against DV and SA. Quote, we often want to see people as good or bad. We really struggle as a culture with seeing people as complicated, she said, especially when it comes to faith. Challenges to that, challenges to how they've committed their belief system, kind of rock them to their core. So if there's a narrative that can explain things away, that's very appealing to people. Hey, by the way, guys, we've got like 500 of us here. So we've got a lot. You guys are being awesome in the chat. You guys always are. You're respectful and you interact with one another. It's so terrific. Please do me the favor, if there's something that you want directed to me that I might want to include in this live stream, just put GF in your comment because I will filter those comments out so that I can include those, okay? I'm going to stick that filter in there, just so you know. Okay, I'll keep that up for just a second. All right. Ministry and marital troubles. J.P. Miller founded Solid Rock Ministries in 2006 with a sermon in the Socasti Library. Sorry if I mispronounced that. According to a biography on the church website. The bio says he had spent his teenage years playing piano in church and nightclubs and, quote, thought church was for fake people who are one way in public and another way behind closed doors. Well, I've got news for you, Pastor Miller. At least in your life, your church has at least one fake person who is one way in public and one way behind closed doors. I mean, how perfect is that? His father, Reginald Wayne Miller, is a pastor who once had a thriving congregation described as the largest charismatic church in eastern South Carolina. He also had a Bible college and a morning TV show called Good Morning Jesus. That empire crumbled after he was accused of this kind of misconduct and convicted of federal charges for forcing international students at his school to work for little or no payment. We also know that he cannot enter the country of Pakistan for the things that he has done to children there. This guy is a problem. All right. JP had also experienced legal problems. Talked about this a little earlier. 8 years before that first library sermon, he was convicted of hitting a woman with his truck in a subdivision near Myrtle Beach and continuing to drive nearly 100 yards with her on the hood before stopping. They've included some. This is the photo. It's a screen grab of Micah going into the pawn shop where she purchased a gun. Okay, JP in court records accused the woman of harassing him, jumping on the hood of his truck, trying to damage it, and refusing to get off. He received, I don't know how that happened, he received a pardon for the charge in 2022. Pardon would have come, I'm guessing that was a state charge, so that pardon would have come from the governor, right? Is that how that works? Oh my goodness. By then, he was delivering sermons in Myrtle Beach at the former Air Force chapel he acquired from his father's religious organization. That is how he got the building where Solid Rock at Market Common was being, or still is being operated, right? His dad owned it. All right. It's in the wealthy Market Common neighborhood dotted with hundreds of homes and dozens of businesses. The church was named the best house of worship in Myrtle Beach each of the past 4 years, Miller said in a recent sermon. Okay. He was also minority owner of a dueling piano bar, Crocodile Rocks, located next to the Hard Rock Cafe in the sprawling tourist destination Broadway at the beach. It sells, oh my goodness, 42-ounce Big A drinks to customers who can request tunes by the two pianists on stage. Okay, 2 people who worked at the bar told the Post and Courier they were shocked when they learned Miller was a married pastor. This guy, let's go back up here. Church, where is that? Where was that? Yeah. He thought church was for fake people who are one way in public and another way behind closed doors. Well, apparently, yeah. So they were shocked to learn that Pastor JP, was a married pastor. Meanwhile, many people, including some elders at Solid Rock, didn't know he owned a bar or drank alcohol there. And until Micah died, they said, they didn't know the full extent of his marital problems. So he was able to keep that ownership of that. He was a minority owner. Let's be fair. But he was able to keep that under wraps from the church. They had no idea. Guys, if my church found out that I owned a bar, there would be issues at church. Okay. Micah Miller accused him of adultery, locking her out of their home, and threatening to throw her belongings outside, according to court records she filed in October seeking a divorce. She stated that he had demeaned her in front of the congregation as well, which people have stated online, by the way, and have even shown. I think a good example of that is the whole, y'all know that my wife had mental illness, and the whole 18 of y'all are trying to get secrets out of my wife thing, right? Okay, and she told police in March that every time she blocked his phone number, he called from a new one. She's not the only woman who felt mistreated. This is these are family members of Micah Miller. I believe that's her dad, her sister, and brother. I think I should know their names right now. Okay, no punishment. During one of the couple's separations last year, JP went on dates with the adult daughter of a family in the church. The chutzpah, man. The chutzpah. The family would soon confront JP and the elders about his behavior during those dates, according to 5 people connected to the church. They have 5 people that confirm this in the report. The Post and Courier reviewed text messages in which JP apologized for what he called, quote, ungodly actions, and blamed it on bipolar episodes stemming from the stress of his marriage disintegrating. The family left the church. JP faced no punishment, church members said. Quote, the atmosphere was that if there was a problem, all you can really do is to leave and leave quietly, said Bernard Kennerson, who resigned as a church elder the week after Micah's death. And this has been corroborated, guys. This has been corroborated by other people who have said on the record in interviews with media and on Facebook that when they left and went to another church, J.P. Miller would call the church to try to cause problems for that family or that person, right? So, yeah, this whole thing where Mr. Kennerson says all you can do is leave and leave quietly seems to be the real deal. Okay, Kennerson wasn't an elder when the family accused JP of misconduct, but said he witnessed during his short time in a leadership position how JP and his spiritual advisor, Charles Randall, were the only people with any power at Solid Rock. And if I remember correctly, that the day after Micah died, when JP made that announcement, it was Mr. Randall who was on stage with him and who said the prayer afterwards. So those two seem to have the power there. And by the way, like, this wouldn't be a problem if the people in charge of a congregation were righteous people, right? That'd be great. Like, you want to endow people who are terrific people with power and authority, right? But man, when they are, and I'm not accusing Mr. Randall of anything, but if JP is, as has been reported, when they're that bad, it causes some serious problems. Okay, another picture of Micah from the Ring camera. Okay, the church was unwilling or unable to hold him accountable, including after JP confessed to the congregation that he had engaged in drug use during a trip to Disney World in recent years, according to 4 people who attended the church. Sierra Francis, Micah's sister, said when she was a teenager attending the church with her family, JP wasn't allowed to close the door to his office during meetings with girls or women. The place always felt more like a cult than a church to her, Francis said. I should do this. Okay. Everybody else just pretended that nothing bad was happening here or there, she said. Sorry, guys, I'm having issues here. Here are pictures of protesters across the street from Solid Rock Church there in Market Common area of Myrtle Beach. Okay, I'm armed, I'm ready. In 2022, Micah sought shelter at the Francis home in the upstate for a few days. Francis said a church leader helped Micah escape JP's house after he pounded on the door and yelled while she was locked in a bedroom. In text messages to Francis, JP threatened to show up at her house writing, "I'm armed, I'm ready. Also, I'm unhinged. And also, I'm unwell mentally and emotionally. And also, I'm an unstable piece of dookie. All right. The couple's marriage had been steeped in odd acts and secrecy from the very beginning. They had married covert. I did not know this, guys. I did not know this before this was written, before I read this, right? Okay. They had married covertly before staging a public ceremony at the church in 2017, Micah's divorce lawyer, Regina Ward, said. This is Attorney Ward, who did the press conference last week. JP convinced Micah that it was the best way for him to be her caretaker when she underwent breast augmentation surgery at his urging, Ward said. The family didn't learn about the marriage until the after effects of the anesthesia triggered bizarre behaviors that landed Micah in a mental hospital, Ward said. They showed up at the hospital, and JP refused to let them see her, according to Attorney Ward, because he was her husband and they had no idea. Oh my goodness, as a father, I would go ballistic. I would have a criminal record at that moment. That would be the beginning of Gavin's criminal record. Oh my goodness. That is shocking and disturbing and just angering, man. Okay. It was the first step in a pattern of trying to isolate Micah from her family, Micah's sisters said. JP convinced Micah to dismiss the October divorce case. He had so much emotional and mental control, that coercive control that he was, if what is said in Micah's list is true, he had systematically gained control over her mind and spirit. So he convinced her to dismiss that divorce case, I'm sure, probably with ease. Then he had her involuntarily committed to a psychiatric facility in February, Ward said. He filed his own case against her before dismissing it. He had convinced Micah to give him power of attorney over her healthcare decisions, which he used to have her hospitalized, Ward said. Give me just a second. Okay. After her release, Micah called police at least 5 times on her husband, accusing him of tracking, harassing, and threatening her. And her accusations were well-founded. A mechanic found a tracker on her car, and there were devices in her tires to slash her tires. And she has him on video coming up to her in public places, stuff like that. It's crazy. During the same period in March, JP accused her of stealing from a church bank account, but the case was closed after Micah proved the allegation was false. Soon after, in April, she filed legal separation paperwork, a common step to start dividing assets on the path toward divorce. She also made an extensive list for Ward outlining JP's behavior. That list is probably the foundation of Micah's list. Quote, "This is about domestic abuse," Ward said. "People have a hard time wrapping their mind around the idea that somebody can't just walk out the door. And it's hard, especially if you feel like as a biblical woman or a spiritual woman that you're supposed to obey your husband," which I think is something that he pounded into her for years, probably starting with their covert marriage in 2015. Micah also provided Ward with 11 of her journals. We know that many of her journals, her iCloud account, it is alleged, let's say, were destroyed while she was involuntarily hospitalized. But 11 journals remain. The attorney declined to share copies with the Post and Courier, but she said they include Micah's descriptions of alleged abuse and her attempts to square her religious beliefs surrounding divorce and forgiveness with the personal hell she was living through. In March, Micah posted a video online where she spoke about abusive relationships and her faith. We looked at that video once again in our the last time we came together to talk about Micah. God hates divorce, but why? This is Micah speaking. It's because it hurts people, she said. But does abuse hurt people? How do you think God feels about that? Like she was finally coming out of it. Ward and Francis said Micah had settled on the idea of a no-fault divorce before her death because she didn't want to hurt the church. Oh my goodness, that church needs some hurting. But she loved it, and she probably loved the people there, and probably because they were worthy of her love, right? There were a lot of good people there at the church. Then there was JP. But anyway, when things would get really bad, Ward said, Micah would threaten to expose her husband's behavior to his church members. Weber, the former Solid Rock member, empathizes with Micah's sense of the church as a community that loved her. He felt the 700-member congregation was a supportive community despite the increasingly erratic pastor. Weber said his family and many others offered their homes to protect Micah. I wonder if he was one of the 18 people that J.P. Miller looked through her phone and saw the text of. Quote, this is Weber talking. They realized she was in trouble, that she was being abused, although I don't know if anybody knew the extent of it, Weber told the Post and Courier. After Micah's death, the legal separation case became primarily about getting her belongings, Ward said. On June 5th, a judge approved a temporary order, which Attorney Ward announced on the 5th, agreed to, or the 6th, whenever it was, agreed, blah, blah, blah. Let me go back. On June 5th, a judge approved a temporary order agreed to by both Micah's family and J.P. Miller. The order allows Ward to take possession of Micah's cell phone, purse, and other personal property being held by authorities in North Carolina where Micah's body was found. The order also prevents the two families from contacting each other except through their lawyers as the case moves forward. I personally, guys, am highly doubtful that Pastor J.P. Miller is going to abide by that agreement. Based on the alleged behavior that has been shared with us, especially last week by Attorney Ward, and knowing that he allegedly stalked and confronted Sierra Francis and her children at the mall, the fact that he was stalking Micah Miller. Those are my words, my opinion, right? But stalking Micah, showing up at gas stations and her place of work and stuff like that he's not going to be able to abide by that. And I hope that will bring a criminal, protection order. Oh my goodness. Okay. Ward, who is also researching whether the family should file a wrongful death suit, I believe that they should because I believe he is responsible, has added Solid Rock to the complaint because JP sold the house to the church. She contends that Micah's estate should be entitled to at least a portion of its value. Ward said JP used the church as a weapon against Micah, including using church letterhead to write letters that disparaged and demeaned her. Ward said he has made similar complaints about Micah's behavior. He's a projector, Ward said. Whatever he's doing to other people, he's saying that's what they're doing to him. And when I read that sentence, guys, you know I love really good lawyering. I love this. Lawyers are typically very careful about the kinds of things that they will say about anybody that across the aisle. And I know that this is a civil matter, right? So this is a plaintiff defense kind of thing here. But lawyers are typically very careful about what they will and won't say about their opposition. This This statement appears dangerous. What is the word? It just appears dangerously close to slander. And it feels to me that Attorney Ward, who, based on her performance, and I've only seen the one performance at the press conference, but based on that performance, she's solid. She's a great attorney. Anyway, I think that she is goading him. It feels like she is goading him. Please go ahead and come at me. This is a come at me, bro sentence, right? When she said, he's a projector, whatever he's doing to other people, he says that's what they're doing to him. So good on Attorney Ward. She's not afraid, and that makes me really happy. Okay. Unforgiveness, hatred, demons coming out of me. Sometimes, while he preached, JP would offer small glimpses into his messy life. In October, he told congregants in a videotaped sermon that he was struggling taking 900 milligrams of lithium, a mood stabilizer often used to treat mental illness like bipolar disorder. He said he was seeing a psychiatrist and counselor and was battling to get out of bed in the mornings. Quote, I have unforgiveness, hatred, demons coming out of me, he said. In an April sermon, Miller said, quote, I'm in a winter season like you can't even imagine. I hate my life right now. It feels like it will last forever. The day after Micah died, JP texted her family, Francis said, quote, this is what happens when you try to encourage someone to divorce the person they love and tell them they don't need medicine and that they're not ill when they are, JP allegedly wrote, according to text messages Micah's family has shared online. He continues, good job, Francis family. So he is blaming the Francis family for Micah's death. That is exactly what Attorney Ward said up here. He's a projector, right? Okay. JP said in a recent live TikTok interview, I can't believe I haven't watched that. If you guys know where that is, this is a good opportunity. If you guys know where that is, please head over to my website. I would like the source TikTok video, the source live video. Go over to my website, gavinfish.com. There's always a link down below, and click on contact and just fill out this form. You can be anonymous. You don't have to give me any of your contact information or tell me who you are. Just if you can send me a link to the original TikTok video, I would love to watch that. Okay. While we're on the subject, guys, if you're on my website and you click this little fishy right here, that will open the fish tank. We are a growing little group on Facebook. I think we've got what do we have? 1,400 members, and we love to talk about all the cases that I cover and some of the cases that I don't. And this is actually a place sometimes where I learn about cases to cover. So please join us over there on the fish tank. You can either click the little fishy icon at gavinfish.com, or you can just go to Facebook and search the fish tank or search Gavin Fish. You will find it. Okay. But please, 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 if you have a link to that original TikTok, I would love to see it. Okay. Back to the story. Okay. JP said in a recent live TikTok interview that he'll release information soon showing he was the only person trying to help Micah. Oh my goodness. Project much? He said he went to 48 people in 3 months and nobody believed him that Micah was planning on doing anything to herself and needed lithium. Micah's sister insists she never had any mental health problems before marrying JP, which is important. In a February sermon titled Be a Peacemaker, JP told worshipers not everyone is who they say they are. Oh my goodness. Again, project much? If you knew every single thing about me, everything I've done wrong, you probably wouldn't be here today. He probably did it in this voice. If you knew every little single thing about me, You probably wouldn't be here today. That's probably what he sounded like. And you probably wouldn't want to be my friend. JP announced he was taking a break from the church after his wife's funeral, leaving it in the hands of his trusted spiritual advisor, Bishop Charles Randall. At the Memorial Day worship service, a burly but friendly usher in a bright shirt, green Bermuda shorts, and a newsboy cap stood at the top of the church steps and politely inspected women's bags for weapons before they entered. After a period of music, some worshipers recalled the days when Micah sang while JP played the piano. One woman said in a recent email from the church, I'm reading that wrong. Sorry. One woman said a recent email from the church cautioned members about speaking to visitors because they might be reporters. By the way, I think it is this one right here, right? This video where we're seeing Micah singing. Look who is on the piano in the back. That is JP, right? This guy is a performer. I think it looks like JP. I believe that is JP. This guy is a performance artist, a talented, like no question, talented. And he used that talent for nefarious means, in my opinion. Okay. Before Randall introduced the guest pastor who would preach that day, he told the congregation that he was still helping JP work through some issues. Randall joked that he hadn't thrown him overboard, so people who claimed he had been fired are lying. But there were no professions of loyalty or confidence in his return. Across the street, 10 protesters held signs inscribed with "Justice for Micah" under the broiling sun. Cars honking appreciatively punctuated the worship. Sometimes they heckle us, one worshiper said, with no trace of anger. Okay, problem shepherd. Bernard and Susan Kennerson led a Sunday night service at Solid Rock after being ordained as ministers and elders in October. Bernard Kennerson knew JP's marriage was falling apart and thought he might be called to step in while JP took some time to repair his relationship. But the Kennersons were blind to the details. Miller convinced church elders that Micah had been having a psychotic episode for months and that anything she said couldn't be trusted. Bernard Kennerson said JP would sometimes show elders a 3-inch thick notebook he claimed was documentation of Micah's mental health problems. Man, like the same techniques that he was using on Micah at home and Allison before that, he was using on the elders of his church, it appears. Kennerson received a call soon after Micah's death on April 27th, asking him to prepare a sermon for the next day. 10 minutes later, he received a text saying JP planned to preach. We have seen part of that sermon just here today. And you guys can go online and you can watch it. It's nuts. The following one, it's nuts in that JP preached an entire sermon for however long it was, an hour or something like that. And then and only then did he then make the announcement that Micah had died. Again, that whole, I bet everybody just felt like, whoa, left turn here, right? That is nuts. That is crazy. Okay, the following Wednesdays, the elders met, a dozen of them. The message from JP and Randall was that all this would blow over in a couple of weeks. JP would step down temporarily. At this meeting, like others, the elders had no real power. Decisions flowed from JP and Randall, Kennerson said. The elders didn't even see church financial statements. One left the church because of the secrecy around money, he said. And that was one of the main tenets of this church, was to give, right? Now, when people give to the church, what do they expect for their gift? They expect that there will be good majordomia. What is the stewardship of the monies that are that are given, and that those monies will be used for some good, right? Missions and to help the poor and to, keep the lights on, some good things. But I think what was happening is just JP was enriching himself. That's what I think. Okay. JP went around the room and asked the elders how they and their families were processing the situation, Kennerson said. One elder said what others were thinking. He didn't care if the police came in and hauled JP off in handcuffs because he attends church to serve the Lord, not the pastor. Good for him. The main focus of the meeting was to protect JP and protect the church, Kennerson said. It was damage control. Randall told a reporter that he would only speak about Micah's role in the church's Africa missions, but repeatedly said it was a bad time to talk when he answered the phone. Okay. There's so much garbage. Let's see, this is Randall. Quote, there's so much garbage out there about the pastor and his past life and stuff like that until I just always screen everything before I respond to it, Randall said in one brief conversation. I didn't want to venture into all the crazy stuff about the man killed his wife and abused his wife and all that because I know that's not so. I've been real close to them since September. So you hardly knew him. Okay. Bernard Kennerson said he met with JP one day last August to issue a warning. Kennerson confronted him about the rumors going around the church despite not knowing full details at the time. He told JP that whatever he'd done, God knows. Kennerson said JP seemed to get the message and agreed he needed to do better. They ended the meeting with a prayer. Kennerson said he later learned at least 4 other people had also advised the pastor to change his ways. But nothing changed. If anything, Kennerson said, it got worse. I'm still torn up about the fact that it took Micah's death, but what's happening with him and Solid Rock Ministries, it's the judgment of God, Kennerson said. You had a lot of good, healthy things going on. Ministry and people caring for each other and being there for each other and supporting each other. And then you've got this problem shepherd. End of quote. Property and tax records show the church had millions of dollars in assets. Check this out. Including a plane and 11 vehicles. And plans, and I think this means a $1 million expansion at the backside of the affluent Market Common neighborhood. I don't think they were going to do a $1 expansion. I think it was a $1 million expansion. Okay. Kennerson said the plane was for JP to start flying to other churches around the country to preach. He never knew the church owned so many vehicles or that JP had sold the family home to the church in December for $169,000, more than $70,000 less than its market value. He never knew JP was part owner of Crocodile Rocks. Excuse me, just a second. Okay. Kennerson said JP was good at controlling the narrative about his personal life inside the church and has a close inner circle dedicated to protecting him. Quote, we were not aware of this deep, deep, dark side, Kennerson said. Kennerson and his wife resigned the week after Micah died, when JP's private life started spilling into public view. There was no way we could walk back into that situation and minister to those people knowing that John Paul conducted himself in ways that are just unconscionable, Susan Kennerson said. We resigned because it was obvious that there are things going on there that aren't right, and it's more than just JP. Yeah, honestly, guys, I think that when you're running a money printing business that JP Miller was running there at Solid Rock, that anybody who is, and I'm not accusing anybody of it, but I would imagine that like people are people, right? So if you are part of this money-making enterprise and it's giving you a very good life, a good lifestyle, yeah, you would protect that for sure. And of course, like there are other reasons why a person would protect their church other than nefarious reasons. They might have the wool pulled over their eyes as well. But either way, dude had insulation going on, right? Okay, Bernard Kennerson said he was hesitant to speak out initially because he is this, and he worried no one would believe him. He also worried about inviting JP's wrath, but after people started posting photos of him with Miller and pointing out his offender status, he decided to share his story and let people know he was never close friends with JP. Kennerson was convicted of this in 1990 while he was in the Army. He spent 4.5 years in the military prison at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. He said he gave his life to God that same year. He met his wife while in prison. They've been married 29 years. So this is what I'm talking about when like, okay, no, this isn't what I'm talking about. Yeah, never mind. Okay. He describes the crime as the most horrible thing in his life and said he still feels remorse about it. He made sure JP knew about it before he ever attended Solid Rock, Kennerson said. It took 3 sermons earlier this year for Chastity Abuadas to decide Solid Rock wasn't for her. She heard some of the rumors about JP, but something she still can't quite pinpoint about his sermons made her uncomfortable. She remembers telling a friend, "He's a good speaker, but so is the devil." Wow. Sins of the father. Okay, we're going to get into Wayne Miller, Reginald Wayne. Here we go. J.P. Miller was fond of saying during sermons that when he was growing up, his family, quote, put the funk in dysfunctional. Okay, that's a kitschy little phrase. Wayne Miller's ex-wife, Susan Miller, said in her divorce filing that she once woke up in the middle of the night unable to find her husband. The next morning, she learned he was in a bedroom with a man who had attended the Bible school. She also described a manipulator with a violent temper. I mean, does this sound familiar? Saying he once beat JP, who was 5 or 6 at the time, with a leather belt at Disney World. Bloody stripes covered both of the child's legs, she said. When JP was a teenager, he and his father would get in fights that resulted in police showing up to the house. "Spare the rod, spoil the child," she wrote that he told her, citing a Bible verse to excuse the abuse. It's like, this is a moment where I'm like, dude, this guy never had a chance. This guy never had a chance. It doesn't excuse his behavior now. It is just a reminder constantly that these kinds of abuses that are generational are very difficult to break. So difficult to break. Not saying you can't. You definitely can. But yeah, this guy never had a chance. Doesn't excuse him. Does not excuse him. Susan Miller declined an interview request. Her affidavit doesn't mention the alleged SA of JP contained in the sworn statement from JP's first wife. JP's church services still take place in the same former Air Force chapel his father bought when he moved from Florence to Myrtle Beach to restart his ministry. Wayne Miller declined an interview request, but he allowed a reporter to attend a service inside the storefront church where he preaches. He said he's wary of reporters because they always bring up accusations from his past that are hurtful. Yeah, hurtful to others, Mr. Miller. Miller said he isn't perfect. Of course not. But not every accusation is true. Okay. Miller said his Bible college graduates about 100 students a year. During the church service that this reporter attended, Wayne Miller delivered a sermon about love. It rejoices in truth, he said, after playing the piano while 2 people he described as volunteer staff sang hymns. No one else showed up. And that is the end of the article. Guys, let's remember who we're talking about here. Let's remember who we're talking about. Let's see. I'm just going to go. Okay, Beyond Safe Words. Gavin, are you familiar with the Preacher Boys podcast? The host does an excellent job of calling out breaking street high demand forms of religion. He might be a good guest to talk about this case. Thank you for that tip, Beyond Safe Words. Thank you. Not breaking down, breaking street is what it says. Breaking street. Okay, I will check that out. Thank you. Wisdom Sleuth 777 asks, Gavin, did you ever hear of Hillsong Church that was in Australia, moved to California, and that kind of similar thing they did, and had the who's who of Hollywood, including Justin Bieber? Interesting. Yeah, I guess they call it charismatic evangelicalism, I guess is kind of how it's, fits into the different parts of Christianity, this charismatic religion. It's inviting. It's inviting for sure. Plus, it's entertaining. You go to church and you hear a band and stuff like that. I can see why people, I can see why people are drawn to it. Christy Riley, people at the top are unfortunately bad. The wrong people are put in positions of power all the time. Yeah, I think sometimes, like the people who don't want the position of power, those are the ones that you want in that position, right? That is true. Christy asked, where is this from? Let me go all the way back up to the top. It's from the Post and Courier. Let me just open this in a browser for you guys real quick. So I will paste I'll paste the link into the chat so you guys can have it, okay? Let me go back. We want to get Mike on the screen again. Just go down one more time. All right. Pauline Buckles says, Gavin, don't you think perhaps John Paul was a bit jealous of Micah, that people liked her in his church? Yeah, that's definitely possible. Yeah, maybe she was, she had her own brand of charisma. She was beautiful. She was talented. Sure. Yeah, it's possible that he had some jealousy issues seeing her front and center. I also, though, think that it would be perfectly natural for a man of JP's apparent character to see her as kind of a reflection on him. Hey, everybody, look at this beautiful woman, married me, chose me, is helping me raise my children, and look how talented she is. That's what makes me great, And then when things start to go sideways, then I think that's when jealousy kind of was like, oh, I got to get her, got to get back at her. That's definitely possible, Pauline. Thank you. Let's see. Lind Snandez says, Gavin sent you the link to your website on your website. Yeah, I will. Thank you for that. Thank you for sending me that way. And then Gothic Breenax also says found the interview. So thank you. Linda Christensen, Gavin, is the FBI involved? I've heard both yes and no. I would like to know if they are or not. So from what I understand, I watched a video done by Gazella K over on Grizzly True Crime. I'm a big fan of Gazella. She's amazing. She actually got the Robeson County Sheriff on record as saying that the FBI, they do know that the FBI is doing an investigation, but not into the death of Micah Miller. That's what they said. And you can go back. Gazella has her videos really well marked. You'll be able to find it. But definitely watch that video. She did very, very good work. Let's see. I sent you an email last week or so. Mooney, I've missed it. I will check it though. Thank you very much. Mooney, by the way, guys, you know how much I love Mooney. She is my very first channel member. She's been a huge supporter. She has gifted channel memberships to so many people who watch here. Thank you, Mooney, for being here. Guys, I am so glad that you have joined me today while we have been talking. we have the channel has grown even more, and I'm so grateful to you guys who like and subscribe and share and support me so much. Thank you very much for doing that. I normally don't show this kind of thing, but 75,000 subscribers is a big number to me, and I am just deeply honored that you guys would join me when I do my live streams and videos. Thank you very much for being here. I will see you on the next one. Until then, I bid you adieu, and I hope you take care of yourselves. See you on the next one. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.